Dr. Hyun-woo Park rubbed his tired eyes and stared at the computer screen. It was 3 in the morning at the Seoul Deep Space Communication Array, and he should have gone home hours ago. But something strange was happening in the data, and he could not ignore it. The radio telescope had been scanning the same patch of sky for weeks. Most nights, it picked up nothing but cosmic background noise, the quiet hum of the universe. Tonight was different. Tonight, there was a pattern. Hyun-woo was a xenolinguist, a scientist who studied alien languages. Of course, no one had ever found an alien language to study. His job was mostly theoretical, creating models of how aliens might communicate if they existed. Most people thought his work was a waste of time. But Hyun-woo believed that somewhere out there, someone was trying to talk. The pattern on his screen was not random. It repeated every 47 minutes and 33 seconds. The signal came from the direction of Vega, a bright star 27 light-years away. That was very far, so far that light from Vega took 27 years to reach Earth. Hyun-woo's hands shook as he saved the data. He had been waiting his whole career for this moment. He reached for his phone and called Ji-yoon Kim, the best communications specialist he knew. "Ji-yoon, you need to come to the lab right now," he said when she answered. "Hyun-woo, it's 3 in the morning. This better be important." "It is. I think I found something." Ji-yoon arrived 30 minutes later with coffee and a confused expression. She was young, only 28, but she was brilliant with computers and signal processing. Her black hair was messy from sleep, and she wore an old university sweatshirt. "Show me," she said, sitting down at the computer next to Hyun-woo. He played the signal for her. At first, it sounded like random static, but then Ji-yoon began to see what Hyun-woo saw. The static had a rhythm. It had structure. "This is not natural," she said after listening for 10 minutes. "Natural signals don't repeat like this." "That's what I thought too, but listen to this part." Hyun-woo played a section of the recording. "Do you hear that?" Ji-yoon put on headphones and listened carefully. Slowly, her eyes grew wide. "Those are prime numbers," she whispered. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. Someone is counting in prime numbers. Prime numbers were special numbers that could only be divided by themselves and 1. They were the same everywhere in the universe. If aliens wanted to prove they were intelligent, prime numbers would be a good way to start. "We need to call Tae-min," Hyun-woo said. Tae-min Lee was an astrophysicist who worked at the same facility. He was older than both of them, maybe 50, with gray hair and thick glasses. He was also the most careful scientist Hyun-woo knew. Tae-min arrived an hour later. He listened to their explanation without saying much. Then he sat down and began his own analysis of the signal. He worked for 2 hours, checking and double-checking everything. "You're right," he finally said. "This is artificial. Someone made this signal." The 3 scientists looked at each other. They all understood what this meant. For the first time in human history, they had proof that intelligent life existed beyond Earth. But as they studied the signal more, they realized something else. The pattern was not just prime numbers. It was much more complex. There were mathematical equations, star charts, and what looked like biological data. And underneath it all, there was something that made Hyun-woo's stomach feel cold. "This isn't a greeting," he said after hours of analysis. "This is a cry for help." Ji-yoon had been working on the star charts. "Look at this," she said, pointing to her screen. "These coordinates point to a solar system near Vega, and these other symbols I think they're showing us planets." Tae-min was studying the biological data. "These molecular structures are unlike anything on Earth, but they're breaking down. Look at these patterns. They show decay, deterioration. Something is dying." As the sun rose over Seoul, the 3 scientists continued their work. They barely noticed the light coming through the windows. They were too focused on the most important discovery in human history. The signal told a story. It came from a species that called themselves the Valeth. They lived on a planet called Cathara, orbiting a star near Vega. The Valeth were very different from humans. Their bodies were made of something like crystal, and they had existed for thousands of years. But now they were dying. A plague was destroying their world, turning their crystal bodies into dust. The Valeth had tried everything to stop it, but nothing worked. Their civilization was ending. The signal was their last hope. They had sent it into space, hoping that someone, somewhere might hear it and help them. But the signal was 27 years old. It had taken that long to travel from Vega to Earth. By now, the Valeth might already be extinct. "We have to tell someone," Ji-yoon said. "The government, the United Nations, someone." "Who would believe us?" Taemin asked. "We're 3 scientists with a radio signal. People will think we're crazy." "Then we need more proof," Hyun-woo said. "We need to decode more of the message. We need to understand exactly what they're asking." For the next week, the 3 scientists worked day and night. They told their supervisors they were working on a special project, but they didn't explain what it was. They couldn't risk word getting out before they were ready. The more they decoded, the more amazing the story became. The Valeth were an ancient civilization. They had been exploring space for thousands of years before humans even discovered fire. They had mapped many star systems and found dozens of other intelligent species, but none of those species had answered their call for help. The Valeth's message contained a list of other civilizations they had contacted. Everyone had ignored them. According to the message, there was something called the Protocol of Cosmic Indifference, a rule that said advanced species should not interfere with natural disasters on other worlds. The Valeth were dying alone because everyone else in the galaxy had decided it was not their problem. But the Valeth had not given up completely. They had sent their message in all directions, hoping that maybe someone, somewhere would be different. Someone who had never heard of the Protocol of Cosmic Indifference. Someone who might actually care. They had found humans. "We're their last hope," Hyun-woo said as he finished reading the decoded message. "We're the only ones who might help them." "But how can we help them?" Ji-yoon asked. "They're 27 light years away. We don't have ships that can travel that far. We don't even know if they're still alive," Taemin added. "This message is 27 years old." Hyun-woo stood up and walked to the window. The sun was setting over Seoul, painting the sky orange and pink. Somewhere out there, beyond the stars, an entire civilization might be dying. And somehow, the responsibility to help them had fallen to 3 humans in a small laboratory. "We have to try," he said finally. "We're the only ones who received their message. We're the only ones who might care enough to help. If we don't try, who will?" The next morning, Hyun-woo called his supervisor and requested a meeting with the highest levels of government. It was time to tell the world that humanity was not alone in the universe, and it was time to ask a question that had never been asked before. What do you do when aliens send you an SOS? The meeting room in the Blue House was packed with the most important people in South Korea. President So Young-choi sat at the head of the long table, her face serious as she listened to Hyun-woo's presentation. Around the table sat ministers, generals, and scientists from around the world who had flown to Seoul overnight. Hyun-woo had spent 3 days preparing for this moment. His hands were sweating as he clicked through slides showing the alien signal, the decoded message, and the star charts pointing to the dying world of Cathara. "Let me understand this correctly," President Choi said when he finished. "You are telling us that aliens 27 light years away sent us a distress call, and you want us to mount a rescue mission?" "Yes, Madam President," Hyun-woo replied. "The Valeth are dying. According to our analysis, they may have only months left before their entire species becomes extinct." General Dong Hyun-yoon, The head of Korea's Space Military Division shook his head. Dr. Park, with all respect, this is impossible. Our fastest ships can barely reach Mars in 6 months. 27 light years would take us thousands of years to travel. Not necessarily, said a voice from the back of the room. Everyone turned to look at Captain Jin Ho Kang, commander of the United Earth Space Force's most advanced vessel. He was younger than most people expected for such an important position, maybe 35, with short black hair and intelligent eyes. Explain, President Choi said. Captain Kang walked to the front of the room. We have been testing experimental quantum drive technology for the past 2 years. The drives can fold space-time, allowing us to travel much faster than normal. In theory, we could reach the Vega system in about 6 months. In theory, General. Yoon repeated. Captain, that technology has never been tested beyond our solar system. It's too dangerous. Dr. Yoon Bai-han, a humanitarian advocate who had worked with refugee crises around the world, stood up. General, with respect, we're talking about the extinction of an entire intelligent species. How can we sit here and debate the risks when billions of lives are at stake? Because, Dr. Han, General Yoon replied, we could lose our best ship and crew on a mission that may already be too late. This message is 27 years old. The Valeth could already be dead. The room erupted. In arguments, scientists argued with military officers. Politicians worried about the cost and the risks. Some people said it was humanity's duty to help. Others said it was suicide. President Choi raised her hand for silence. Captain Kang, tell me honestly, what are the chances of success? Captain Kang was quiet for a moment. The quantum drive has worked perfectly in all our test flights within the solar system. But you're right, we've never tried to use it for interstellar travel. There are risks. We could get lost in folded space. The drives could fail halfway there. We could arrive and find nothing but dead worlds. So what are the odds? The president pressed. Maybe 60% that we reach the Valeth system alive. Maybe 30% that we can actually help them if we get there. Maybe 10% that we all make it home. The room fell silent. Those were terrible odds for such an important mission. Dr. Yoon Bai-han spoke first. Captain, what would you do if it was your family dying on that distant world? I would go, Captain Kang said without hesitation, no matter the odds. President Choi looked around the room. I want to speak with the other world leaders before we make this decision. Dr. Park, can you present your findings to the United Nations tomorrow? The next day, Hyan-woo found himself in New York, standing before the largest gathering of world leaders in decades. Representatives from every major nation sat in the UN General Assembly Hall. The room buzzed with nervous energy as he began his presentation. The reaction was similar to Seoul. Some leaders were excited about the possibility of helping another species. Others worried about the costs and risks. A few questioned whether the signal was real at all. How do we know this isn't some kind of test? Asked the representative from Russia. What if these aliens are studying us to see how we react? What if it's a trap? Added the representative from China. We could be flying into an ambush. But other voices spoke up in support. The representative from Brazil said, if we can help save an entire species, don't we have a moral obligation to try? The representative from Nigeria agreed. This could be humanity's greatest moment, the day we proved we care about more than just ourselves. The debate went on for hours. Finally, the Secretary General called for a break. During the recess, Hyan-woo sat in a small side room. Exhausted from answering the same questions over and over, Captain Kang found him there. Rough day? The captain asked, sitting down across from him. I keep thinking about the Valeth, Hyan-woo said. While we're here debating, they're dying. Every day we delay could be another 1,000 lives lost. I know, Captain Kang said. I've been thinking about that too. I've also been thinking about my crew. If we do this mission, I'll be asking 12 people to risk their lives on what most people think is a hopeless cause. Will they go? Captain. Kang smiled. I asked them this morning. All 12 volunteered immediately. Not one of them hesitated. Why? Because that's what humans do, Captain Kang said. When someone needs help, we help, even if it's dangerous. Even if it seems impossible. It's who we are. That evening, the UN reached its decision. By a narrow vote, they approved the rescue mission. The decision came with conditions. Only one ship could go. The mission would use volunteers only. And if contact was lost, no follow-up missions would be launched. President Choi announced the decision to the world the next morning. Today, humanity takes its first step as citizens of the galaxy, she said. We go not as conquerors, but as friends. We go because when someone cries for help, we answer. The announcement caused a sensation around the world. Some people called them mission heroes before they even left Earth. Others called them fools. Social media exploded with debates about whether humanity should risk everything to save aliens they had never met. But in the Seoul Deep Space Array, Hyun-woo was already working on the next phase. If they were really going to attempt this rescue, they needed to learn everything possible about the Valeth and their world. Ji-yoon had been monitoring the Vega system for new signals. I'm picking up more transmissions, she told Hyun-woo. Weaker than before, but they're still broadcasting. What are they saying? I'm not sure yet. But Hyun-woo, I think they're still alive. That news changed everything. The mission was no longer about investigating an extinct civilization. It was about racing against time to save a dying one. Captain Kang began assembling his crew aboard the U.S. Perseverance, humanity's most advanced spacecraft. The ship was equipped with the experimental quantum drives, advanced medical facilities, and enough supplies for a year-long mission. More importantly, it carried something the Valeth had never expected to receive, hope. As the Perseverance prepared for launch, Hyun-woo received a final decoded message from the Valeth. It was short, but it changed everything he understood about their situation. The message read, "We do not expect rescue. We send this message only so someone will remember us when we are gone. We are grateful that someone listened. That is enough." Hyun-woo stared at the message for a long time. The Valeth weren't really asking to be saved. They had given up hope of survival. They just wanted someone to know they had existed, but they didn't understand humans very well. When humans see someone who has given up hope, it doesn't make them give up too. It makes them fight harder. Captain Kang found Hyun-woo in the communications room, staring at the translated message. Bad news? The captain asked. No, Hyun-woo said, standing up with new determination. The best news possible. They think this is impossible. That means they'll never see us coming. The next morning, the U.S. Perseverance lifted off from Earth, carrying 12 humans on humanity's first interstellar rescue mission. As the ship disappeared into the darkness of space, people around the world watched and wondered, what happens when someone sends an SOS into the void and humans are the ones who answer? They were about to find out. The U.S. Perseverance cut through space like a silver arrow, its quantum drives bending reality around it. Captain Jinho Kang stood on the bridge, watching the stars stretch into lines of light as they jumped between folded sections of space-time. It had been 3 months since they left Earth. The crew of 12 had settled into their routine. Aboard the ship, Dr. Soo-jin Lim, the medical officer, spent her days studying the biological data they had decoded from the Valeth signal. Engineer Woo Seung-chun monitored the quantum drives that were pushing them through impossible distances. Cultural specialist Hi-Rim Yu worked with the ship's AI Arya to learn more about Valeth society. Captain, called Ji-yoon Kim from the communication station. She had joined the mission as their link to the alien signals. I'm receiving new transmissions from the Cathara system. Captain Kang walked over to her station. What are they saying? It's different from before, Ji-yoon said, her face troubled. The signals are much weaker. And they're not distress calls anymore. They sound like ... goodbye messages. She played the decoded transmission through the ship's speakers. Even translated into Korean, the sadness in the alien words was clear. To whoever finds this message in the distant future, we were the Valeth of Kithara. We tried to build a good civilization. We tried to live in peace. We are sorry we could not survive to meet you. The bridge fell silent. Dr. Sujin Lim, who had been reviewing medical scans, looked up from her work. How much time do you think they have left? Based on the signal strength and the biological data, Ji-yoon said quietly, maybe weeks, maybe less. Captain Kang felt the weight of command pressing down on him. They were still 3 months away from the Cathara system. At their current speed, they might arrive to find nothing but empty cities and silent radio towers. Can we go faster? He asked Woo-Soong. The engineer shook his head. The quantum drives are already at maximum safe power. If we push them harder, we risk burning them out completely. Then we'd be stuck in empty space. What about unsafe power? Captain Kang asked. Woo-Soong's eyes widened. Captain, that's incredibly dangerous. We could tear the ship apart. Or worse, we could create a quantum cascade that destroys everything within a light-year radius. But we could get there faster? Maybe, if we don't all die in the process. Captain. Kang called a meeting in the ship's main conference room. All 12 crew members gathered around the metal table, their faces serious in the blue light of the ship's displays. You all know our situation, the captain began. The Valeth are dying faster than we expected. At our current speed, we might arrive too late to save anyone. What are you proposing? Asked Dr. Sujin. Woo-Soong believes he can increase our speed by overloading the quantum drives. It's dangerous. We might not survive the attempt, but it could get us to Kithara in time to make a difference. The crew exchanged glances. These were not soldiers who had been ordered on a suicide mission. They were volunteers who had signed up to help dying aliens they had never met. I have a question, said Hi-Rim, the cultural specialist. What would the Valeth do if the situation were reversed? If we were dying and they had to risk their lives to save us? According to their cultural data, Hi-Rim answered her own question, they probably wouldn't come. Their society values logic over emotion. They would calculate the odds and decide the risk was too great. Then why are we doing this? Asked one of the junior officers. Captain Kang smiled. Because we're not them, we're human. And humans don't abandon people just because the math says we should. The vote was unanimous. All 12 crew members agreed to risk their lives for a better chance of saving the VAELET. Woo-Soong spent the next day modifying the quantum drives. He removed safety protocols and rerouted power from non-essential systems. When he was finished, the engines hummed with dangerous energy. Ready, Captain, he reported. But once we start this, there's no going back. We either reach Kithara in 6 weeks, or we die trying. Do it, Captain Kang ordered. The Perseverance lurched forward as the modified drives engaged. Reality twisted around them as they plunged deeper into folded space than any human ship had ever gone. The hull groaned under the stress. Lights flickered. Emergency alarms wailed, but they were flying faster than ever before. The stars outside became a blur of silver light as they raced toward a dying world. 3 weeks into the dangerous flight, something unexpected happened. The ship's long-range sensors detected signals coming from the Kithara system, but these weren't the usual Valeth broadcasts. Captain, Ji-yoon called excitedly from her station. You need to hear this. She played the new signal. It was in the Valeth language, but the tone was completely different from their previous messages. Where before there had been sadness and resignation, Now there was something else, amazement. "What are they saying?" Captain Kang asked. "They're talking about us," Ji-Yoon said, her voice full of wonder. "They've detected our quantum signature. They know someone is coming." Hirim was already working with Arya to translate the full message. "Captain, listen to this. Impossible readings. Detected from the direction of the yellow star. Quantum disturbance suggests artificial origin. Could the message senders actually be coming? This cannot be real, but sensors do not lie. Someone heard us. Someone is coming." For the first time in months, the bridge crew smiled. The Valeth were still alive. And for the first time in their long history, they had hope that help was on the way. "Open a channel," Captain Kang ordered. "It's time to make first contact." The blue-green world of Cathara filled the view screen of the Perseverance as they dropped out of quantum space. Captain Jinho Kang had expected to see a dead planet, but what he found was far more heartbreaking, a world in the process of dying. Planet's surface was covered with crystalline cities that sparkled like jewels in the light of Kithara's sun. But many of those crystals were cracked and dim. Some areas that should have been bright with alien civilization were dark and lifeless. "I'm detecting life signs," reported Dr. Soo-Jin Lim from the medical station. "But they're much weaker than our projections suggested. The population has dropped dramatically. Incoming transmission," Ji-Yoon announced. "It's from the planet's surface." "Put it through," Captain Kang ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was unlike anything humans had ever heard. It was musical, like wind chimes, but filled with emotions that needed no translation: wonder, disbelief, and desperate hope. "Unknown vessels from the yellow star system," the voice said in carefully pronounced Korean. "I am Elder Velnara of the Valeth High Council. We cannot believe you are real. In all our centuries of scanning the galaxy, no species has ever responded to a cry for help." "Why have you come?" Captain Kang stepped forward. "Elder Velnara, this is Captain Jinho Kang of the United Earthship Perseverance. We received your distress signal 27 years ago. We came because you asked for help." There was a long silence from the planet. When Elder Velnara spoke again, her voice was shaking. "You came because we asked? But the distance ... the danger, the protocol ... double quotes. What protocol? What protocol?" Captain Kang asked. "The protocol of cosmic indifference," Elder Velnara explained. "All advanced species follow it. When a civilization faces natural extinction, others do not interfere. It is the way of the galaxy. It has always been the way." Dr. Soo-Jin Lim stepped up beside the captain. "Elder Velnara, we're not familiar with this protocol. We came because people were dying and we might be able to help. May we come down to your world?" Another long pause. Then, "Yes, please. We have prepared a landing site in our capital city of Xianera. But you should know we are not the civilization we once were. The plague has taken most of us. Only a few thousand remain." The shuttle ride down to Cathara's surface was unlike anything the human crew had experienced before. The cities below them were made entirely of living crystal that grew in impossible spirals and flowing curves. But as they flew over the alien landscape, they could see the damage the plague had caused. Entire districts stood empty, their crystal structures cracked and darkening. They landed in a plaza surrounded by towering crystal spires. Waiting for them was a small group of Valeth beings that looked like they were carved from living gemstones. They were beautiful, but the humans could see that something was terribly wrong. The aliens' crystal bodies were dull and cracked in places, like precious stones that were slowly turning to dust. Elder Velnara was the tallest of the group, her body a deep blue crystal that caught and reflected light in mesmerizing patterns. But even she showed signs of the plague's small cracks that ran along her arms like lightning. "Welcome to Cathara," she said. her voice still filled with disbelief. "In all our recorded history, spanning thousands of your years, we have never received visitors from another world. Most species we contact refuse to even respond to our messages." Dr. Sujin Lim knelt down to examine one of the smaller Veleth, whose crystal body was more severely cracked than the others. "Elder Velnara, can you tell us about this plague? How did it start?" "It appeared suddenly, 50 of your years ago," Elder Velnara explained. "It attacks the quantum bonds that hold our crystal matrices together. Our greatest scientists have studied it, but nothing stops its spread. We estimate that within one of your months, the last of us will crumble to dust." Hiram, the cultural specialist, was examining the crystal architecture around them. "Elder, you said other species refuse to help with natural extinctions. Have many civilizations faced similar disasters?" "Oh yes," Elder Velnara said sadly. "The galaxy is full of dead worlds. The Mortaki traders lost their homeworld to solar flares 3 centuries ago. The Keth Empire fell to a virus that attacked their hive minds. The Helix Federation destroyed themselves in civil wars. In each case, other species observed, but did not interfere." "That's horrible," said Dr. Sujin. "How can advanced civilizations just watch each other die?" "Because interference leads to dependence," Elder Velnara explained. "If species help each other survive natural disasters, they never learn to become truly independent. It is logical. It is wise. It is the way of advanced civilizations." Captain Kang shook his head. "Elder Velnara, I have to tell you that doesn't sound logical to us at all. It sounds cruel." "But you are a young species," Elder Velnara said gently. "You have not yet learned the hard lessons of galactic citizenship. When you mature, too will understand the necessity of the protocol." "I don't think so," Captain Kang said firmly. "Humans help each other. It's what we do. It's who we are." Dr. Sujin was still examining the sick Veleth. "Elder, I'd like to take some samples back to our ship. We have medical equipment that might help us understand this plague." "You would try to cure us?" Elder Velnara asked, her crystal body brightening with surprise. "Of course. That's why we came." Elder Velnara was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her musical voice was filled with something the humans had never heard from her before. "Hope. Your species is very strange," she said, "but perhaps strange is what the galaxy needs." Part 5. The Human Response. Dr. Sujin Lim had been working for 3 weeks straight, sleeping only when exhaustion forced her to collapse at her workstation. The medical lab aboard the Perseverance had been transformed into something that looked more like a crystal garden than a scientific facility filled with samples of Veleth biology. "I think I understand how the plague works," she announced to the assembled crew. "It's not really a disease in the way we understand diseases. It's more like a quantum virus that disrupts the energy patterns holding their crystal bodies together." "Captain." Jinho Kang leaned over her shoulder to look at the data. "Can we stop it?" "Better than that," Dr. Sujin said with exhaustion and excitement in her voice. "I think we can reverse it. But I need help from the Veleth scientists. And I need to try something that's never been attempted before." Down on Kythera's surface, Elder Velnara had gathered the last surviving Veleth scientists in the Great Crystal Laboratory of Xeonera. There were only 12 of them left, 12 scientists to represent a civilization that had once numbered in the billions. "The human doctor believes she can help us," Elder Velnara told them. "But her methods are unusual." Dr. Sujin's voice came through the crystal communication array. "Elder Velnara, the key insight came from studying human medical history. We've faced many plagues on Earth, the Black Death, influenza, the biocrisis of 2063. Each time we learned that the most effective treatments often came from unexpected sources." "What do you propose?" asked one of the Veleth scientists. The quantum virus that's killing you operates on specific frequencies, Dr. Sujin explained. But I've discovered that if we can generate opposing frequencies at exactly the right resonance, we can actually repair the damage to your crystal matrices. Impossible, said another scientist. We have tried frequency therapy. It does not work. You tried Valeth frequency therapy, Dr. Sujin said. I'm proposing human frequency therapy. Our music, our harmonics, our understanding of sound and resonance, it's completely different from yours. Elder Velnara's crystal body flickered with interest. Explain. Humans have something called music, Dr. Sujin said. We create organized sound patterns for emotional and artistic purposes. Some of our music operates on the exact frequencies that could heal your quantum bonds. But we need to modify it, amplify it, and broadcast it through your crystal network. The Valeth scientists looked at each other in confusion. You want to cure us with art? One of them asked. Not just art, Dr. Sujin said. Art combined with quantum physics, human medical knowledge, and a little bit of what we call stubbornness. Working together, the human and Valeth scientists spent the next week building something that had never existed before, a quantum harmonic resonance generator powered by human music and Valeth crystal technology. Wu Sung, the engineer, worked with Valeth technicians to create amplifiers that could broadcast healing frequencies across the planet. Hayrim contributed human musical compositions that contained the right harmonic patterns. Even Arya, the ship's eye, helped by calculating the precise frequencies needed for different stages of crystal repair. Are you ready? Dr. Sujin asked as they prepared for the first test. Elder Velnara, whose crystal body had grown noticeably dimmer over the past weeks, nodded slowly. We are ready. If this fails, we lose nothing. We are already dying. If it succeeds, double quotes. It will succeed, Captain Kang said firmly. Humans don't give up. They started with a single test subject, young Valeth, whose crystal body was badly cracked, but not yet crumbling. The harmonic generator began to play, filling the laboratory with sounds unlike anything the galaxy had ever heard. Human music transformed into healing frequencies. At first, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the cracks in the young Valeth's crystal body began to glow. The light spread through the cracks like golden veins, and then something miraculous occurred. The cracks began to seal themselves. It's working, whispered one of the Valeth scientists. But Dr. Sujin wasn't finished. Now we broadcast it planet-wide, she said. The modified communication towers of Kithara began broadcasting the healing frequencies across the entire world. The effect was visible from space. The darkened areas of the planet began to glow again as millions of crystal beings felt their bodies repairing themselves. But the real miracle came when the frequencies reached Valeth, who had already crumbled to dust. The quantum patterns in the dust began to resonate, and slowly, incredibly, the dust began to reform into crystal bodies. The dead were returning to life. Elder Velnara stood in the central plaza of Xionera, her crystal body now blazing with healthy light, as she watched her people emerge from buildings that had been silent for years. Children who had crumbled to dust weeks ago were running through the streets, their laughter ringing like silver bells. How is this possible? She asked Dr. Sujin. Because humans don't accept impossible, the doctor replied. When we're told something can't be done, we figure out how to do it anyway. Word of humanity's success spread across the galaxy faster than light, carried by the Valeth subspace communication network. On 1,000 worlds, alien civilizations received the same impossible message. The plague of Kithara has been cured. The extinct have been restored to life. This was accomplished by a species called humans from a system near Sol. The response was immediate and galaxy-wide shock. The Mortaki Trade Council called an emergency session. The ancient Keth Empire emerged from centuries of isolation to demand details. The Helix Federation sent diplomatic messages for the first time in decades. All of them asked the same question. How did a primitive species do what we believed was impossible? Elder Velnara stood before the great crystal communication array, now blazing with the light of a restored civilization, as she broadcast humanity's answer to the galaxy. They did it because they do not know our rules. They do not follow the protocol of cosmic indifference. When they hear someone crying for help, they come running. When they are told something is impossible, they attempt it anyway. They are strange, illogical, and wonderfully, beautifully different from the rest of us. Captain Jinho Kang received the galaxy's response aboard the Perseverance as they prepared to return to Earth. Hundreds of alien civilizations were broadcasting messages toward the Sol system. Some were invitations. Some were warnings. Some were requests for help with their own impossible problems. Captain, Ji-Yoon called from the communication station. I'm receiving distress calls from 17 different star systems. Plagues, natural disasters, dying civilizations. They're all asking for human assistance. Captain Kang smiled as he looked at the star charts showing all the locations that needed help. Each one represented another impossible situation that other species had given up on. Set course for the nearest one, he ordered. And send a message. Back to Earth. Tell them we're going to need more ships. As the Perseverance jumped back into quantum space, heading toward their next rescue mission, Captain Kang activated the ship's communications array and broadcast a message that would become famous across the galaxy. This is the United Earth. Ship Perseverance. We received your SOS. We're on our way. For the first time in galactic history, someone had answered when civilizations cried for help. And they were just getting started. Back on Earth, President So Young Choi stood before the assembled United Nations, reading reports of humanity's success on Cathara. The room was silent as she finished describing how 12 humans had accomplished what the entire galaxy believed was impossible. The question before us now, she said, is not whether we can help. We've proven we can. The question is, how many ships do we build, and how fast can we build them? The vote was unanimous. Humanity would become the galaxy's first responders. The species that showed up when everyone else had given up. After all, when someone sends an SOS, humans answer. It's what they do.